that society is producing a lot of weak men, which are mimicking the hormones of a female, so that because females are more emotionally reactive, which is easier to manipulate. So as a whole, if the collective of society are weaker, then they are easier to control.
That's
I'm
okay.
just thinking about
Also,
sperms going...
So our mitochondria are the powerhouses of all of our cells all around our body, and they create what's called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, and that is what creates energy. If you have poor mitochondrial functioning, you have fatigue, you have brain fog, you have all of these slow nervous system and whole body reactions.
So men's testosterone levels aid in better sperm quality.
Yes.
And quantity?
Yes.
So if you are struggling to get pregnant, a woman, it could be because your man's got low testosterone and you are sleeping with a woman and you're actually a lesbian.
Yeah.
Get your hormones in line, men, and stop being women. Hey guys, welcome back to the Stillness Everyday podcast. It's occurred to me recently that most men in 2023 have vaginas, so I've brought Alicia back on the podcast to discuss male hormones. Last week we discussed female hormones and how to optimize them, and this week we are going to discuss male hormones and how to optimize your testosterone naturally. Welcome back to the podcast, Alicia.
Thank you for having me. Let's
start with the claim about men having vaginas and what that actually looks like internally for a man. So what does a male hormone look like, for me to say something like that?
Yeah. So in males, the predominant hormone is testosterone, and we are seeing never seen before low levels of testosterone in males, and we'll discuss what some of the causes of that is, and a rise in estrogen in males, which is the female predominating hormone. So I have like higher circulating estrogen and progesterone inside me, whereas you have higher circulating testosterone. That's what makes you male and that's what makes me female. But now we are seeing lower levels of testosterone in males, which is looking like low libido, more facial acne, lower rates of fertility, and so on.
So why would the acne part, that part just stood out to me? Why would that be a factor? Like, are you saying women get more acne than men?
So in very high testosterone states, we see severe acne, but also in very low testosterone states, we also see acne. So men that take anabolic steroids for gym purposes, we usually see them break out in a lot of acne, but then low testosterone, we also see acne breakouts. So it's not about having super high or super low. It's like anything, too much of a good thing turns into a bad thing. Right. So we just want to optimize it and bring it back into the optimal range, which interestingly, like many other things, the standards have dropped because not enough men were actually meeting the testosterone, like the optimal testosterone ranges. And that's the same with sperm count and sperm morphology, as in how they function, how they swim to get to the egg to fertilize it, and sperm quantity, like how many sperm per ejaculate is optimal. All of those markers have dropped because men are not meeting them anymore.
Right. So what is the major cause and why men are not meeting those markers in their testosterone levels?
There are so many different causes. But so as we touched on in our last podcast, endocrine disrupting chemicals are quite a big culprit to lowering testosterone, because what they do is they bind to testosterone and eliminate it from our body. And then that allows other hormones like estrogen and progesterone to dominate rather than testosterone. So that's one of them. Obesity is a big one because fat cells secrete estrogen. So therefore competing with testosterone.
So, I was just going to ask, so estrogen and testosterone are competing?
They're antagonistic, meaning they're opposite. Right. They fight for they compete for, levels in our body.
So how does soy milk affect?
I can explain that. That's fine.
How does soy milk affect testosterone? Because does that not increase estrogen?
Yeah. So soy, especially in organic soy, is what we call a xenoestrogen, which upregulates estrogen in our body and acts as that hormone in our body. So men who consume a lot of like tofu and soy milk and soy products, they are putting xenoestrogens in their body, which then upregulates estrogen production. So another huge contributor to low testosterone in our society today is stress, because our sex hormones are created in our mitochondria, which is inside our brain, and then so that then feeds down to our pituitary gland. But when we look at the mitochondria, stress directly impacts that. So we need to work directly on reducing our stress and managing our stress to therefore produce proper sex hormones, because cortisol and sex hormones compete for when they are then created. So we have what's called the pregnenolone steal, and pregnenolone originates from being, so when we have really high cortisol, which is our stress hormone, pregnenolone then takes the testosterone and turns it into cortisol rather than testosterone. So then we're just running on stress rather than...
Yeah, that makes sense.
So managing our stress through lifestyle, through meditation and stillness practices.
Would that be like just sorry to cut you off, would that, if it's increasing your cortisol levels, would that then have a compounding effect on creating less testosterone again? It would just kind of keep multiplying and multiplying?
So like that. So it starts with DHEA and then it either goes pregnenolone or testosterone, which pregnenolone steals DHEA away to then make cortisol. But
then increased cortisol, would that not create...
so you're not making testosterone if it's being stolen by cortisol.
All right, what else impacts our testosterone levels?
Environmental toxins like glyphosate and other pesticides being endocrine disrupting chemicals themselves. Excessive alcohol also, and THC also impacts our sperm quality especially, and sperm function, which is really interesting, and anyone can look up what sperm does compared to normal sperm once someone's smoking a doobie, and the sperm are just like, they've got two heads and they're just swimming really slowly and they're just like super lazy.
So it pretty much reflects the individual in their life, most people.
Yeah.
It's funny. So they're basically like little versions of us, I guess they are anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Sleep is another huge thing that contributes to it. If you're not having enough quality or quantity sleep, sex hormones are produced in your sleep.
Right.
So if you are not having 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night, you are not then producing those sex hormones.
How does anabolic steroids affect your sex hormones?
So anabolic steroids, and I'll explain this in like a very broad term so that people can understand how it applies in other areas. You are giving your body exogenous, meaning outside, hormones. So it's like women taking the OCP. Like
What's the
we're
OCP?
Now, the oral contraceptive pill, Like there's so much awareness now and information, and it's like continuing to grow in awareness, which is great, is now the side effects of the oral contraceptive pill basically mimicking our hormones, and anabolic steroids do the exact same thing. You're putting testosterone into your body. Then we see in males when there's like too much testosterone, then you lose your libido or like your sex drive, and you break out in acne and all these other symptoms that then once you come off testosterone therapy, your body has that withdrawal similar to the oral contraceptive pill. So women go on it for reducing their acne and then they come off it and their acne flares back up.
Yeah.
So men will come off it and these symptoms will be even worse.
Right.
So your body has then a withdrawal from these steroid hormones.
I've heard men say that their sex drive increases when they take it, or is it momentary?
Interesting. It might be momentarily. It's like, I guess, any medication.
But if you had increased testosterone, would it not make you...
So there's a different... It depends where you were to start off with. So we have older men who are naturally just declining in their testosterone production. They have hormone replacement therapy, but it is very controlled and teetered, so their sex drive will improve, of course, because they have really low testosterone and then they're bringing it up to optimal levels. But say you were to take testosterone, you have optimal levels and then you're far surpassing it. Now you've got excess circulating testosterone. And when we have excess hormones circulating around our body, it makes it extremely hard for our liver to detoxify those excess hormones. It's putting strain on your liver, which is your primary phase 2 detox organ, to actually get rid of that extra. And it's just because it's unnatural for our body to have that much, all our body's doing is going, I need to get rid of this, so you're overworking it.
All right, so what are the best ways to increase testosterone as a man without taking steroids?
So zinc is one of the best things that we can incorporate, and we can do this through dietary means, but a lot of people don't have access to oysters and really rich sources of zinc all the time. Coenzyme Q10 is also one that I look at, which functions in, as I spoke about, the mitochondria in our brain. That really aids that in order to help sperm function down the track. You're aiding your mitochondria to aid testosterone and sperm quality. Acetyl L-carnitine is an amazing supplement. I know we're kind of just talking about supplements, but these are all great things that you can speak about with your healthcare practitioner. When we talk about lifestyle things, exercise is incredible for increasing testosterone, especially weightlifting and weight-bearing exercises rather than just running. We want to be strengthening our muscles because that strengthens our mitochondria, which then aids testosterone production. So our mitochondria are the powerhouses of all of our cells all around our body, and they create what's called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, and that is what creates energy. If you have poor mitochondrial functioning, you have fatigue, you have brain fog, you have all of these slow nervous system and whole body reactions. You can't maintain your aerobic capacity, which is your ability to then work out in the gym. So that's the function of ATP, is to give us energy. Right. And energy production comes from the mitochondria. So if you have poorly functioning mitochondria, which a lot of people do because of stress and all the things that we kind of just discussed, and that's why if we don't have healthy mitochondria, we can't produce healthy testosterone.
Amazing. That was well explained.
Okay, good. Resistance training, especially weight training, is one of the best things we can do for our mitochondria. So strengthening that mitochondrial function to then aid with healthy reproductive organs. This is in males and females, but this is a really good way to upregulate testosterone. Cold plunges and saunas, that building resistance is something. So if someone has poor mitochondrial function, they usually have poor resistance to stress and other things in their life, or resilience. So that's something you can strengthen through that as well. So if you're doing ice baths and cold plunges, that really strengthens that mitochondrial functioning.
Interesting. So would I be right in saying that men should have more testosterone than women?
Yes.
So what would happen if a woman was lifting weights every day?
Well, if a woman was lifting weights every day, she would be dishonouring her menstrual cycle and everything about it. We work on a 28-day beautiful cycle, whereas men work on a 24-hour cycle. So you can do the same thing every day, whereas women cannot. We're kind of going back to female hormones, which is fine, but So when you're menstruating, when you're bleeding, that is the time where you should just be honouring that bleed, and there is so much energy there. You're losing blood. You are, like, your body is then working so hard to replenish that. It is a time for rest. It is your winter phase. It is your time to just do yoga, gentle stretching, having baths, just like really nurturing yourself. And then when we come out of that, we go into our follicular phase, which is when we create follicles going into ovulation. So that's the time where our energy then increases again. So we can do things that are a little bit like higher intensity, like jogging, and we can start picking up the pace a little bit. And then we have a 3-day period where we ovulate, and that's when the egg travels down the fallopian tubes into the uterus, and that is when energy is at its peak, and that's when you like optimally would have sex to have a child. But that's time for like really high intensity exercise, like running, sprinting, doing those things. And then we move into our luteal phase, which is the last stage, and then it starts again. But our luteal phase is then when energy decreases again. It's going towards our bleed again. But that's generally when weightlifting or things like that, really slow but heavy movements, are good. Yeah.
But why is that?
Because when our estrogen dips, so after ovulation, it plummets. And then we have a rise. Females have a rise in testosterone and progesterone, nowhere near male levels, but like they're just the hormones that then dominate in that phase. And how I was saying that weightlifting is much more beneficial to upregulate testosterone. That's why weightlifting is beneficial in this period, because we have an increase in testosterone and progesterone and a decrease in estrogen. So we are then able to do weightlifting, more slow, controlled, heavy movements.
Right. Would it actually have a detrimental effect in the other stage, is what I mean? Yeah.
So if you, during this follicular phase, when you have estrogen predominating and you're then weightlifting, your muscles are not as equipped to actually do weightlifting. So you are at an increased risk of tearing your muscles or any kind of injury, because we need progesterone and testosterone in that next stage in order for it to be optimal.
And does the estrogen levels, I know we're fully on women's hormones right now, but
okay.
Is the estrogen rising for a reason, obviously?
Yeah, estrogen rises. So in this follicular phase, it's creating the follicles, and then one of them has the most beautiful egg, which is then in ovulation, when it then decides the biggest egg, then all the follicles pop, and that one beautiful egg is released down the fallopian tube into the uterus. Without estrogen, you don't ovulate.
Right.
So you don't have that. So
if you're weightlifting as a woman, you could be affecting your ability ovulation to get pregnant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to men's hormones. Alright, so men's testosterone levels aid in better sperm quality and quantity.
Yes.
So if you are struggling to get pregnant, a woman, it could be because your man's got low testosterone and you are sleeping with a woman and you're actually a lesbian.
Yeah, we can put it that way. And it is, and we know this now from research, that it is 50-50. It takes a healthy egg, but it also takes healthy sperm. And like, so if I'm not ovulating, I'm not producing an egg. That's something I need to work on. But if you have poor sperm quality, quantity, mobility, or they have 2 heads and 2 tails and they're just like looking really funny, then they're not going to fertilize the egg. Or you just, simply don't have enough speed to get up there.
But what if, actually, let's go on if you're high, if you're stoned, and your sperm has 2 heads and it's going really slowly, is there an increase? I know you said it has to be a fast sperm to actually impregnate the woman, but if it does happen to make it there, is there greater risks involved with that birth?
There is, especially if the woman then continues, like if she was then to continue smoking throughout the pregnancy, THC. It's associated with low birth weight. And if you have a low birth weight child, that increases their risk of so many conditions down the track, such as hypertension, type 2 diabetes, like all of these lifestyle-related diseases, they increase when we have a low birth weight child.
All of these things considered now, you have to think of how they affect the future, you, like your offspring, and I suppose their offspring again.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important to, like, if you don't have that knowledge, find a practitioner who can then empower you, like both of you, in preconception. So, like, you should take at least 3 months to be like, to make sure everything's in optimal ranges before you try to conceive. It can be confusing in the nutrition world with social media, knowing what's right and what's wrong, and working with someone can be extremely beneficial. Men generally do need supplementation of quite a few nutrients before, like, to create healthy sperm to then impregnate the woman, and then it is her job pre and during and postpartum to continue supplementation to ensure that that child has the best outcome in utero and beyond.
So you're saying men need to supplement and women need to continue to supplement during pregnancy. These supplements obviously didn't exist 200 years ago. Is that because of every single thing that's affecting our hormones today?
Absolutely. And then, as you know, we have poor sperm quality. We've never been more, like, disconnected to where food comes from and where we're actually getting it from. Like, everyone's just shopping at Coles and Woolworths, and rather than going to their local farmers market, and we're consuming less animal products and fatty acids, which are so important for hormone production and modulation. And yeah, so many of these essential nutrients that we primarily had, and like we were eating like a nose to tail of the animal, getting all these beautiful nutrients that, like, if you were having like liver and heart and all these beautiful things, you wouldn't need to supplement. But most people would just like turn an eye at it and be like, ew.
All right, so can you give me like the main things that men should actually remove from their life or be conscious of where they're consuming it to increase their testosterone levels?
Absolutely. I remember me and you actually looked at a study showing that fizzy drinks and energy drinks decreased your testosterone levels by more than 30%. So that's one thing that men can very easily do, as well as they're drinking out of aluminium cans, which are lined with BPA, which is binding to your testosterone and getting rid of it. Just, canned drinks, like fizzy drinks, energy drinks in general. Managing your stress is very important because, as I said, it's just stealing it away and you're then not able to produce healthy testosterone.
So meditation's obviously important for high testosterone levels?
Meditation is very important, yes. Yeah, I feel like we can set the standard Australian diet, which its acronym is SAD, which is a lot of fast foods and grains and vegetable oils and things like that.
Alcohol?
Anything else? Alcohol, yeah. We discussed that.
Is there a healthy amount we can drink a week?
No. Well, not in my opinion.
Okay, so
but
we can't, no alcohol is allowed?
But that's coming from if I want it to be absolutely optimal, no alcohol. But if you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot live without it, you can have a red wine on the weekend.
One.
That does not mean a whole bottle.
Now versus 100 years ago, the nutrient density of our fruit and vegetables and possibly even our meat quality is far lower. Is that having an effect on men's hormones, or is it just the pesticides that are on the vegetables?
Absolutely. Well, it's all of those things combined. It's lower mineral content of our soil. So zinc, magnesium, all of these beautiful nutrients in our soil contribute to healthy sperm and healthy testosterone levels. And we don't have that from our food anymore. And then when we look at now what animals are eating, being mass produced, like if you're not getting grass-fed and finished meats, but even then the grass and the soil quality isn't as good, so we're still not getting those minerals, and then when you are highly stressed and highly strung, you are decreasing those minerals. So it's like this whole cocktail of
disaster.
bad. Yeah.
So what I believe, so I would say that society is producing a lot of weak men, which are mimicking the hormones of a female, so that because females are more emotionally reactive, which is easier to manipulate. So as a whole, if the collective of society are weaker, then they are easier to control. So fast food, obviously, like your main ones, your McDonald's, KFC, your Red Roosters, most people know that they're unhealthy. Some people are led to believe that Subway is the healthier option, or if you go to a service station and you buy like a sandwich, with tomato and lettuce and mayo in it and ham, is the healthier option. Can you elaborate on that? Is it healthier or is it much of the same?
I'd say much the same. I think we tend to put health halos around things, and Subway and grilled and these things are one of them. Subway it's based on bread. It's majority bread. It's white bread, which gluten triggers zonulin, which triggers inflammation, which triggers obesity, which decreases testosterone. And then it's on poor quality meat, which we know drives inflammation, that same cycle. And then when we think about chickens or any other animal, their stress hormones, and then we are consuming their stress hormones, and then we become stressed, and then this decreases testosterone. Because animals are now being more mass produced in poorer quality conditions, this is a kind of perfect example. When I was quite young, like 10, 12 years old, I ate a lot of Woolworths chicken, and it's accumulation of other things as well. Like I had a very poor diet growing up, but chicken that then now is pumped full of growth hormones. I, at the age of 10 to 12 years old, was overweight. I had boobs. I got my period at 10 or 11 years old, and it was heavy and painful, and that's estrogen dominance. So synthetic hormones in an animal, synthetic hormones transferred to that human. And
I imagine that would have affected you mentally at school?
As well as really bad acne.
Right. So there's just another example of why parents should be considering these things for the effect that what they feed them has on their children.
Absolutely.
Because I know I was the same. Like we ate healthy, but it was from a supermarket, so it would have been the same chicken. I've learned quite a bit today, and I'm going to just kind of put it out what I have learned, so Alicia can correct me if I'm wrong. Stress upregulates our cortisol levels, which downregulates testosterone. So if you are living a stressed life, you should definitely bring in practices like meditation or ways to quiet your mind. So I suppose grounding or yoga, ice baths tend to help quiet your mind as well. Getting 8 hours of good quality sleep. So I find that when I go to bed by 8 o'clock, I have the best sleep. If I get 8 hours from 10 o'clock, I find that my sleep is far worse. So 8 to 4, I find I have better sleep than 10 to 6, but that's entirely up to you. But getting quality sleep, because that's when our sex hormones are being created.
Correct.
Amazing. And estrogen dominance circulating in your body. Estrogen competes with testosterone, so you should avoid hormone-disrupting chemicals like microplastics or just plastics in general, so drinking out of plastic bottles, wearing plastic clothing, plastic lining in tin foods or aluminium products.
BPA and things like that.
BPA create a rise in estrogen.
Yeah, or they compete for
dominance.
Yeah.
No. Weightlifting, super important for a healthy mitochondria, which healthy mitochondria
equals healthy testosterone.
Which equals healthy sperm.
Healthy generations.
Which equals healthy generations. So, again, like I usually speak about, well, I've started to more so, is thinking about why you're here and what you're passing on to future generations. So becoming the best version of you obviously has a ripple effect onto the rest of society. The better you become, the better your relationships will become, and ultimately that will bring together a strong family unit, which will have a ripple into your communities and the rest of the world. So it starts with you. Get your hormones in line, men, and stop being women.